Our next guest's grandfather was one of the giant stars in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and did all kinds of genres, not just Westerns. And his grandson is here to join us today to talk about Joel McCrea's legacy. Wyatt McCrea. Howdy, pal. Good to see you. Good to be seen. Thank you, Wyatt.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Where did you grow up?
My grandfather had a ranch on the Central Coast near Paso Robles, California, just east of there, a little town called Shandon, about 600 people. And my dad ran that ranch for him when I was a kid, and that's where I did a lot of my growing up.
How often did you see your grandfather?
All the time, constantly. And people don't realize, my grandfather, of course, had a very public life as an actor, but he always considered himself a rancher. That's what he put on his tax return. And he always said he only acted so he could afford to ranch. So that's what he really loved to do. And so, he bought a ranch early on based on the advice of Will Rogers, who said, if you don't make it in acting, you got to fall back on something. You better buy land. They're not making any more of it. Everybody knows that quote. So my grandfather followed that advice, and he really wanted a ranch, and that's what he got.
Wyatt invited me and Western film buff and actor Bruce Boxleitner to visit the former home and ranch of his grandparents, Joel McCrea and Frances D. Now, why don't you live here?
Well, because we donated this to the Caneo Rec and Park District, and it's on the Register of Historical Places, National Register of Historical Places, and so we wanted to keep it more as a museum type of an atmosphere. We give tours up here, about twice a year is about it, but the house is kind of my ace in the hole when I do a fundraiser. This is what people pay extra for, is to come up here and see the house. So, but it structurally is in great shape. But living-wise, the plumbing, electrical would have to be updated to make it livable by today's standards with today's appliances and all that sort of things.
And what year did your grandfather build this?
He bought the ranch in the spring of 1933 and started building the house in the summer of 1933, and they completed it by Christmas of 1933. They moved in. There were still some odds and ends to do, but they were in the house by the end of the year, 1933.
I was about 30 when he passed away, so I got to know my grandfather very, very well. So, yeah.